guys, Sunday night, time for another episode of Walk with Webb. A couple of things first. You might have noticed the name of the channel has changed. I'm gonna kind of get into why we did that. So, was there one more thing that I wanted to talk about? Well, it might come back to me in a minute here. So, as I continue to try and push the channel forward in our outreach, that's what it was. See, that's part of getting old, is you go brain dead for a second and then you either walk out of a room or start walking or do something, and what you wanted to say comes back to you. So anyways, we actually we've started a while ago, but I guess we weren't too serious about it, but we've started a coaching business, and I know I've advertised it on here a couple of times. We changed the name, we changed the whole dynamic of how we're trying to reach people. Our philosophies, our training, what we offer and stuff like that hasn't changed. But I realized just because I think something might be cool as far as a name, it doesn't really sound attractive to people that might be looking for help, right? So there's a lot that goes into advertising. So again, our goal is to reach the everyday man and woman. That's what I call them. Some people call it blue collar, but white collar is everyday people too, right? We're trying to reach the people that want help, want to get their health and priorities in line with everything that has to do with their health, right? And we are huge proponents that all of that starts with weight training. Okay, we're not talking about turning people into powerlifters, strongman competitors, that type of thing, although we could get you there if that's what your goal was. Our goal is just to get the everyday people in shape, living optimally, not within these numbers that everybody tells you, whether it's your testosterone or a certain weight number or body mass index, all that kind of generalized healthcare advice. I mean, if we've learned anything since 2020, it's that we really cannot trust completely the medical field, right? There's just too many hands in the pot looking to get money, and every one of us are paying the consequences. So a lot of people have learned we got to take our health into our own hands. There's way too much research, way too many resources out there, and that's kind of what me and my wife are trying to offer. Is we know that the majority of people do not care to try and research everything. They want to be told by somebody they trust, helped by somebody they trust, that has done all that and is going to tell them the truth. With us, first and foremost, when I talk about what I'm going to talk about tonight, whether it's peptides or hormone replacement therapy or testosterone replacement therapy, we will advise you to work through your doctor, okay? But we'll also tell you, if your doctor can't get on board with what you're trying to do by what we recommend, find a doctor that will, and they are out there, okay? You might have to search a little bit. Maybe insurance and finances and things like that are an issue as far as getting on some of these things. Do your research, dig. If that's really a problem, let us help you dig in to find things that you can do, okay? There are ways around certain things. We're not advising anybody break the law or do anything silly like that. And again, everything that we talk about on this channel when it comes to hormones and medical advice, we're not doctors. We're telling you some of the opinions that are out there, right? We're telling you to do your research, and we're not suggesting one way or another that you do this or that. We're just trying to make the options available, okay? And let you know what is actually out there. Alright, so with all that mumbo jumbo stuff out of the way, again, our coaching service is now Blue Water Physique. What we specialize in is just getting moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, regular everyday people, get their health in order, okay? We know that it can be a struggle. It can seem never ending, that type of thing, right? I look at it like this. Have your finances ever been a mess, but you knew you had to fix them? And you had to get certain people involved and work out plans to maybe get things taken care of and paid off. till you finally got it in order and you got yourself straightened out and got your credit score good and all that type of thing, right? Well, health is more important than that. But it's always the first thing that everybody puts on the back burner. And I just, for the life of me, really can't understand why. Because what's the point of having your finances in order if you're going to die in a year, right? Or you're living the next 20 years, on all kinds of medication. You can't do anything strenuous. You can't enjoy time with your kids. You can't play with your grandkids, all that stuff. All these things are important. And one of the things I'm going to keep driving at is I want people to prioritize their health first and foremost. I'm going to be 54 years old January 1st, okay? My wife will be 47 September 1st. And we are literally in the best shape of our lives. My wife's had 5 kids. Well, we've had 5 kids, but she birthed them all, okay? She obviously had to do the hard part. Raised them, been through all the different ups and downs financially, different economies, work, homeschooling, all the different things we did, and there were times we put our health on the back burner. But the moment that we could always, in any of those times throughout our over 20 years together, we've been married over 23 years, but we've been together since 2001, so 25 years. All throughout those times, as soon as we could get back into the gym, as soon as we could get things, back in order, we did, because we always knew how important it was, even when we were younger, because we both come from athletic backgrounds. But there's a lot of people that don't, and that's okay. That's another thing we're here for. So as we continue to try and push our service out there, and I do videos like this, and I'm on the TikTok now, as the young kids call it, social media stuff, trying to make a presence, making videos even when it seems like people aren't interested. Sooner or later I think it'll catch on that we're cutting through all the sea of noise, right? Of just the do this, don't do that, everybody wants your money, this kind of thing, exorbitant prices, way out of reach for the people we're trying to reach, right? So anyways, I guess enough trying to sell my wares, right? The purpose of tonight's video. So I kind of wanted to talk about hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, the use of peptides, and all these different things, right? I'm going to use myself as an example and my wife a little bit too, okay? And there's just some things I want to deal with, I want to try and bury, and I really hope that folks watch this and listen, all right? First and foremost, we need to get out of our mind that our main primary doctors know all and are the end all, and that we need to listen to everything they say, okay? I'm sure there have been times in your life where your doctor told you to do something or you should do something, and you basically disagreed with him and disregarded his advice and went on your merry way. Now maybe what he was telling you to do was right, like quit smoking, lose weight, exercise. Those are things you actually should have listened to, but you had no problem disobeying those orders, all right? And what I'm trying to get you to do is have the same mentality when your doctor or whoever you're listening to tells you that certain levels of testosterone are normal, or certain levels of estrogen are normal, or you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't lift heavy weights, you shouldn't tax your system, all these different things. While at the same time in our country, obesity, heart disease are the #1 killers, especially among women, and low testosterone and whacked out numbers of estrogen are one of the main culprits. All right, you go back in history and look at some of the numbers, and I'm going to deal with testosterone in men here a little bit, but ladies, testosterone is a natural hormone that your body produces as well, and you need to have it increased, all right? We live in a society that is geared to keep people and their testosterone levels down. Whether it's intentional or not, it is the way that it is. With the food that we consume, all the different types of bad lighting that our eyes and skin soak in, you know, our water systems. And I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not into all that health crystal stuff, and you know, our water's killing us. But certainly, there's there's some to be said about some of that stuff. Okay. But anyways, we both produce men and women testosterone. Okay. So I want to kind of get you to divorce the fact from your brain that a certain number is where you need to be at and never go any higher. Now I'm going to give a little bit of historical fact, and I keep switching the camera back and forth because my arm gets tired. Again, as these things move along and I get a little more successful, we start to bring on clients and we grow. I'll invest in a little bit more equipment that makes things a little bit better, a little bit more enjoyable to watch. I do want to start a podcast, have guests on, all that kind of stuff. Like I said in the first video I ever made, my head is full of stuff. And helping people and sharing the information that I've ingested over the years and decades is very therapeutic for me, okay? And that's important to me because of some of the trauma that both my wife and I have been through. And one of the outlets is for me investing and helping people. And I kind of did a deep dive on one of the episodes a while back. So, historically, testosterone numbers in men have been way higher, okay? In the 90s, and I'll go back just to the 90s for now, but in the 90s, the average for men from ages 19 up to, I think it was in the 70, 80-year-olds, right around there, the normal ranges were, average ranges were considered right around 1100 from what I'm seeing, what I've listened to, okay? 1100. As of 2017, the new normal range is 250, right around that number. Now let me say that again. In the 90s, the average normal testosterone level for men, age group 18 up to right around 70 or so, can't remember the specific age where they cut it off, was around 1100. For that same age group, in 2017, it's now 250. That is a hell of a drop. Now we have to ask ourselves, why have they dropped the numbers so dramatically? Has society here in America gotten healthier since the 90s? Has it gotten less obese? Have we reduced heart disease, diabetes, cancers, all these different types of things that are running rampant in our society? I think we all know the answer to that question is no. Things are far worse. Now here's the kicker. The reason the average changed is because the nation has gotten more obese. You know, and I chose my words carefully there. I know that we live in a society today where certain words trigger people and then they turn you off. And I'm not here to have anybody dial me out. I don't need to use a certain word just to have more emphasis. And there are people that think they need to do that. Everybody knows what I mean when I say obese, okay? Let's not play that game. The nation at large is more obese than it was in the 90s. And so when you average those same males, same age groups, we have more obese people with lower testosterone, which automatically drives down the average. That's not good, okay? Now, thankfully, things are getting better as far as testosterone replacement, availability, hormone replacement for females. Thank you, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for that, removing the black label warning labels that kept everybody scared to death, you know. And once they placed those on women's hormone replacement therapy medications, you know, cancers skyrocketed, all the other different things, women suffering in perimenopause, depression, heart disease, all these different things. They've traced it and how they elevated once they scared the life out of everybody, and apparently from just one terrible study. So with that, and there's more that could be said, right? But I think you're getting my point. What I'm trying to convince everybody here is stop worrying about a number. Stop believing all the fear-mongering and things simply because doctors are not specialists in hormone replacement. They just aren't. Now, there are a new wave of doctors coming in, younger ones, that are doing their research, that do realize the old guard was wrong on a lot of stuff, okay? And they're trying to do more than just give you a band-aid to put on the problem by giving you some kind of prescription. Like I said, I'm going to use myself as an example here, okay? So, back in 2017, early February, I went in and got a regular physical for work done. Something that when I was in the union that I was in at the time, you had to go in once a year and get a physical for your insurance. It was required, which was cool with me. Get your blood work done, do the heart stuff. At that time, I weighed right around 245 pounds. I believe I was about 45 years old. It just turned 45 a month prior. And one of the things that I had noticed probably a year or two before is just my energy levels were tanking, which was unusual for me. I was working out at the time as well, consider myself pretty healthy. I was strong, in the gym 3 days a week while still working 50 to 60 hours a week in the field. But it just, I started using energy drinks, which was not common for me, drinking 2 a day at the time, and still crashing out at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, like literally crashing out, which was unusual for me. So I decided to go in, and I had been doing some research on testosterone. So I decided to go in and get my blood work done and get my testosterone checked. Now, this was at the beginning phases of me even getting into the world of understanding what testosterone was really about and all that type of thing, okay? Up until this point, I never really even went and got my blood work done. Just went and did a typical physical, and they didn't do blood work. But I went and got blood drawn by the recommendation of something I was reading in a podcast that I was listening to, and I wanted my testosterone checked. Well, in that, they also tested, your A1C and all that type of stuff, and I had no idea what any of that was. Never even really bothered. Didn't even have high blood pressure at the time that I was aware of. Of course, I never really took my blood pressure, but I wasn't really having any symptoms that, at least I didn't think so, because I was so on edge. Alright, so forgot to clean some of the videos and photos off my phone, so I ran out of storage, so I'll be splicing these two together. Anyways, like I was saying, went and got my blood work done, and not only was my testosterone low, it was about 330, okay, but my A1C was at 5.9. Now, to me, I had no idea what this meant, but my doctor had called me. Well, the doctor, he wasn't my doctor, just the one that did the physical. He called me and told me they were concerned about it. Well, me getting a phone call like that, I'm automatically tripping out, and I want to fix whatever's wrong, right? So I commenced doing some research and what I needed to do to get a control of my A1C, seeing what the average numbers were supposed to be and that type of thing, right? And that's what I set out to do. Research different diets that we could do. And what the wife and I had chose at that time was to, we probably did 2 weeks worth of research to try and figure out how to get this under control, okay? And we came across the keto diet. I'm not going to get into all that, but long story short, we did the keto diet. It was miserable in the beginning. In 10 weeks, I went from 250 pounds, and I got all the way down to 197 pounds in 10 weeks, okay? My calories were running at, I think they started me out, or I started myself out, on about 1,900 calories a day. Now, mind you, 50 hours in the field. We started CrossFit, we started Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga, and working out in my home gym And by home gym, I mean I have everything you need to be a power lifter or a strongman in my home gym. And we were doing all that, right? And all of that on 1900 calories to begin with. And then me being the way that I am, I'm impatient, want to get things done. Started liking the way I looked, the way I felt. Went with 1700, ran that for probably the last 4 weeks of that 10-week weight cut. And we stayed keto. We stayed keto for probably 2 years. Once I got a different job position and was in the office and, you know, different things like that. Um, Basically eating, you know, lunches they bring into the office, that type of thing. Got sidetracked for a minute, had some people coming by. I didn't know if they were talking to me or not. Weight started to creep back up, so go on to a different type diet thing. Fluctuated. That was about 2019. Fluctuated here and there, in and out. I'm not going to go back into all that, but that's what got me started on this whole testosterone talk. So in 2017, I went and got a new doctor, who since retired, but he was my doctor all the way up until fall of last year. Good guy. Recommended to me by my dad. I stuck with him. It was for about 6 years or so. Well, no, 8 years. All right, we're going to try this again. Apparently I had a lot of stuff way back buried. I'm not that too good with phones that I had to get rid of here. So hopefully that takes care of it this time. So anyways, 300 milligrams on it for several years. Fast forward, started using certain, so I call them quote unquote supplements in about 2022, right around that time. Ran that gamut for a while. Didn't really feel any effects of them. At one point I had gotten up to 267 pounds of body weight because I was training for my second amateur strongman show and figured, well, you need to be big, that type of stuff, to be strong. Felt like crap. Probably about a 35% body fat. Had no mobility. It was just terrible. So I gave all that up. Kept my testosterone at about 300 milligrams a week. More research. Fast forward up till this year, okay? I don't want to make this too long. Fast forward up to this year. We decided we're going to do a bodybuilding show. Our weight had creeped back up. I was back up to about 239 pounds, and I was like, okay, got to get this back under control again. So we went on another cut, this time with a lot of artillery up here, you know, a lot of weaponry, understanding what was going on, what we needed to do, what we didn't need to do, that type of thing. My wife has been on hormone replacement therapy. I put her on that back in 21 or 22, right around there. She is now in perimenopause. We realize now, assuage, basically block off a lot of the symptoms that come with perimenopause because her body was already used to having testosterone introduced into it and having her levels get elevated, that type of thing. Where we sit now, my numbers, my testosterone is at 2,500 total testosterone, and my estrogen is sitting at about 105. Now, those were the numbers I got in June with the blood work that I had gotten back. Now, initially I had freaked out. I'm like, whoa, my estrogen is way too high. What's my testosterone doing so high? You know, that type of thing. But what was weird was I had no adverse symptoms like I had had in the past. You know, when my testosterone seemed to be getting high, my hematocrit was considered high, and there's another number that's thrown around. You know, but it was the side effects I was feeling back then. So what I am realizing is my testosterone is higher than it's ever been. My estrogen is higher than it's ever been. All these side effects, adverse side effects I had had in the past from those numbers being high are gone. I'm at 195 pounds body weight. I'm probably sitting at, and I'm not a good guesstimator, but I'm probably sitting at no more than 12% body fat right now, I would guess. Okay, maybe 13, but I got another 10 pounds to go to get to the goal weight to lock us in for where I need to be at for the competition when we start growing again. All that to say, I feel phenomenal. With the way the numbers are, according to the medical field, with my testosterone being high, it would give all the doctors a heart attack. My estrogen being that high, it would give them a heart attack, except for the doctor I have now, which is a good doctor. I've been sitting at 200 milligrams of testosterone since, because I lowered it back in, I think, March, when we brought on our new coach. And again, coaches need coaches. Yeah, I've been running 200 milligrams, except for just a short elevated where I took it up to 300 and added a couple other things for about 8 weeks. But you know, I was off all that about 8 weeks ago. I ended all that, so I've been running 200 milligrams of testosterone, and weight's coming down, look phenomenal, feel good in the gym. The only thing I'm suffering from is because my calories so low, trying to keep my performance up in the gym, which is still going pretty good, all things considered. With the other things that I do to help my sleep, you know, the melatonin that I use, and there's another thing right there everybody's missing out on, is you need to up your melatonin game for a lot of reasons. It's more than just helping you get to sleep. You know, it helps fight viruses and all kinds of things. But that might be for another episode. So, you know, all the supplements I'm taking at nighttime, plus the kratom that I use to reduce my anxiety, give me mental clarity, and help me sleep at night, making sure I'm in bed by 10:30, which I will be honest, the last week I've kind of been bad and been shutting the lights and everything off at 11 o'clock, and that's not a good thing. I definitely feel it. And folks, I'm telling you straight up, my numbers are sitting where the regular doctors would tell you it's ridiculous, okay? But I have no adverse side effects. And I was nervous. When I got my blood work and seen it 2 weeks ago, I was tripping, all right? I thought to myself, holy smokes, how did this happen? You know, I started second guessing everything, like everything's going in the right direction. Symptoms that I was having when I was overweight they're gone, okay? How in the heck did my testosterone get so high? Especially being on a lower dose than I've ever been, you know, in the last 5 years. And after talking to a couple people, doing some more digging and research, listening to a couple medical doctors that specialize in hormones, like I said in the beginning, doing that stuff that most people don't like to do, right? Doing research and not going into it with a predisposed mentality of, well, I'm going to keep my testosterone up no matter what, because the more the better, right? That's not necessarily true, okay? I've learned something here, okay? And that's this. You cannot just trust the medical field that they're telling you everything that you need to know. Most of them are running off the idea that they're told what to do by insurance companies. They can't actually fix problems because they could lose their licenses, their practices, their jobs, and their livelihood, right? And to a degree, I can't blame them, but at the same time, when you become a doctor, you take an oath, right? And your patient is supposed to be your first and foremost priority, not the yacht and the island that you want to retire on and all that kind of crap. I'm not against people making money, but damn it, this is people's health that they have in the palm of their hands. So I guess I'll end with this, men and women, is if you don't want to do your own research, reach out to me and my wife, okay? And I'm not saying we know everything. You know, there was a couple of people that got me started on this path, and me being the type of person, I wanted to know why of what they were telling me, okay? That's just how I operate. I don't want you to just tell me, I have to know why. Been like that since I was a kid. Don't just trust everything that you hear. Actually dig in, do your research, and know this, that your testosterone should be higher. Because of the society we live in, it can't get to where it should be. because like I said, the food supplies, the lightings, the constant barrage of computer screens and phones in our face all the time, and it's the way our society is geared anymore. There's really no getting away from it. Most of our jobs depend on it. No, my job, I mean, 85% of the day I'm staring at a stupid screen, and you know, everything's run off my phone and a you know, an iPad. It's just the way that it is. So we have to start doing things to combat that. So I'll end it with this. Men and women, more testosterone is actually better. But there's some caveats and nuance to that. The number one enemy that you have to get rid of is the body fat, and you have to start training. These things have to be put into order, and then we can start introducing, well, your doctor can. We can discuss it, talk about it, and get you headed in the right direction. But my advice is this, is up your game. Get your testosterone up there, get your estrogen up there, get these God-given hormones that are in your body to help regulate things, and get them better so that you can be living better, training better, just doing things better. And you might say, well, I feel pretty good. But would you like to feel better if somebody told you that you could? Would you like to live optimally? Would you like to see how far you can go and what it could feel like? Because I'm telling you guys, I'm not saying I'm some superhuman or anything like that. I just feel good. Yeah, I get tired, but I can trace it down to not getting the proper sleep, the fact that I'm doing a cut and still working out hard. All these things are traceable and fixable, but right now I have to go through these things. But if you're not doing those type of things, yet you're still suffering, it doesn't have to be that way. And this goes for anybody. Literally anybody can benefit from this. Alright, so I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest tonight. I'm on a nice long walk tonight. The wife, she had to be into work tonight at 4:15 or 4:45. So I went to the gym, did 25 minutes on the stair stepper, you know, got my heart rate up to the 130, 135 range for that whole time, and then been on my walk ever since, let's see, 6 o'clock? No. Yeah, 6 o'clock, which I planned for a 3-hour walk because I like to stay walking. My kids are all gone, nobody's home, and wife's at work, so I don't want to sit around and be bored. I'm not that kind of person. Plus, I'm like a lost little kid when my wife's not around. It's just how I operate. I really miss her on these walks when she can't be with me. So, with that said, guys, pass the word about Blue Water Physique, if you would. Share it with your friends, people that you know are looking for help. Our rates are very, very, very reasonable. Trust me, I mean probably ridiculously reasonable. And we're going to give you everything that we have. We use ourselves as examples. We were the guinea pigs for everything that we are going to suggest to you. You know, the training, the meal planning, the food sources, hormone suggestions, supplements to help with sleep and other things, all of it wrapped up into putting it down on a program for you to just follow, make your life easy, because your life is hectic enough dealing with what you have to deal with, right? So with that said, hope you like the way the channel looks now. Any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments. You know, reach us on Instagram, DM us on Instagram at blue_water_physique, and hoping to hear from you and maybe get you on your journey. Till next time.